Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. I'm so glad you're here. Well, what's going on? The melt up. Melt up's continuing. Now we've completed the first 2 months of the year, and each month was higher. We're up about 10% on the S&P for the year so far in the first 2 months. Now, most analysts, that was their ending target for the year. 5,100 was their ending target. So they've already reached what they expected the S&P to do in the first 2 months, so they can take the rest of the year off. Now, that might not be a bad idea. Maybe they just pull their money out, put it in 4% T-bills, and just chill until, well, the rest of the year. That might be the smart move at this point. You see, we had this melt up, right? And we're kind of going straight up. The last 16 of the last 18 weeks have been up weeks. So it's this melt up, straight up, straight up, straight up. And when you melt up that quickly, a lot of times you also melt down that quickly. Now, I know not yet. We're still got the momentum trend going higher, but I'm willing to bet that March is a down month. We've had 5 straight up months in a row. I predict March to be a down month. We'll see how that plays out. I know you moon boys, you think we're going to the moon, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's got a different take. My take is we're close to the top. It's a little bit scary up here. Use some caution. This melt up could end in a meltdown. Anyways, let's get over to the real estate end of things. Now, first I want to talk about the banking system. But Mike, what's the banking system got to do with real estate? You know, I get that question a lot and it cracks me up. You see, 80% of homes are bought with mortgages. No banks, no mortgage. Prices come down. That's what banks got to do with the real estate system. It's really not that complicated, but okay. So let's talk about New York Community Bank, right? All right, so their stock has gone from, I don't know, $12 a month to go down to $3 and change. It's going to be the next one that goes out of business. Now, there's going to be hundreds of banks that go out of business, and it's going to start this month. I think they'll start with New York Community Bank. Now, let's just talk about them because every bank is doing the same thing. But what they have is about $380 billion worth of commercial real estate loans. $380 billion, right? Okay, but the problem is that the actual buildings that these loans are on, well, they are only worth about 200 billion. So they got 380 billion in loans where the underlying asset is only worth 200 billion. So they're 180 billion dollars upside down. Now, as their stock keeps going down, there's what's called a run on the bank. People know they're in trouble. They want to get their money out. And I can't blame them. You know, this bank looks like it's going to go down. But they're $180 billion upside down. That's just their real estate portfolio. And this is why hundreds of banks are going to go down. You see, all the banks are doing the same exact thing. But you see, it's not just the banks that are doing this. It's the pension funds. It's the insurance company. It's the real estate trust. It's the syndications. They're all going to need to be bailed out or they're going to go under. Now, the banking system, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, they're going to print enough money to bail them out. FDIC's broke, but the government can still print the money, right? If they don't print the money, they would have to do what's known as a bailing because hundreds of these banks are going to go out. You see, back to New York Community Bank, okay, $380 billion in loans. They're starting to roll over though, right? People don't even need to come and ask for their money out. $200 billion in assets. Now the loans are coming due. So are they going to continue to make the loan on the building that's worth half of what it used to be worth? And are they going to continue to make the loan, right? So these people have to come and borrow the money. They want to borrow $380 billion, but their assets are only worth $200 billion, and the interest rate went from 3% to 8%, over doubled, almost tripled, right? So there's a big problem. A lot of people don't see this. Now that's just one bank, 380 billion, right? One bank. Okay, that's a problem, right? But there's other banks that have just as big of problems. Okay, now this whole thing is $2 trillion of these loans are coming due. Well, in this year and next year, they're going to come due. But there's not $2 trillion worth of assets to back these loans. So the banks are going to need, well, at least $1 trillion bailout, at least minimum, probably closer to 3, 4 trillion. Now we print money, right? The big headline that everybody seen in the last week, I'm sure, is that we go farther in debt by $1 trillion, $1 trillion every 100 days. We go farther and farther into debt. Okay, that's a problem, right? Now, granted, we can print money into oblivion. I get that. But you see, the accelerated rate that we have to continue to print the money at is getting extremes. Pretty soon it'll be 2 trillion every 100 days. Then it'll be 4 trillion. Then it'll be 8 trillion every 100 days. Now, how long can this go on? At some point, we're starting to have what would be a hyperinflation problem, right? We just print the money and nobody wants to buy our debt. Nobody wants to touch our debt. Central banks around the world selling our debt, right? They don't want the treasury bonds anymore. They're buying things like gold, right? They want real assets, not the fake debt that we have. And believe me, our debt will never be paid back. 35 trillion. We can't pay it now, but soon we're going to reach that pivotal point. We can't even make the interest payment on the debt anymore. Okay. So we got 9 trillion of this 35 trillion coming due. It's coming due. Well, what do we have to do? We have to go out and sell $9 trillion worth of bonds this year. Okay, but it's worse than that because remember, we're going farther in debt, $1 trillion every 100 days. So about another 4 trillion onto the 9 trillion that's coming due. So 13 trillion, let's call it. $13 trillion is going to be dumped onto the marketplace this year. And somebody's going to have to buy it. There's no buyers. You want to buy it? I don't want to buy it. So the long end of this debt is going to shoot up, right? I mean, it's running, 3, 4, 5% right now. It's going to double. It's going to go 10, 15, 20%. And that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a huge problem. That's going to send everything crashing down. Going to send the stock market crashing down. Going to send your house crashing down. Now, it's going to take some time to play out. I don't know if it's going to happen next week. It could happen next week. But in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, you're not going to recognize the U.S. anymore. Why? Why? Because we have 100 trillion in unfunded liabilities coming due. Now, what's an unfunded liability? Well, it's your Social Security. Now, I'm a boomer and I'm getting to the age where I'm going to start to want to collect Social Security and I'm going to want to get paid, right? But they don't have the money. So you millennials, you don't mind being taxed more. You don't mind working more hours so I can get my Social Security. See, the government took all the money that we paid in and they spent that money. It's a big giant Ponzi scheme. There's no money. So this is an unfunded liability. Medicare. Boomers getting older, getting sicker, need hospital care. No money in Medicare. Unfunded liability, right? 100 trillion, over 100 trillion of them. Those are going to be added on to the 35 trillion in debt we have. Do you think this is going to end well? If you think it's going to end well, let me know in the comments as to why you think it's going to end. You see, a lot of people, they tell me, but Mike, we got modern monetary theory. We can print as much money as we want, and it doesn't do any harm. I mean, we've already printed 35 trillion. It really hasn't done any harm. There's no harm out there. Have you been to the grocery store lately? It has done harm. At some point, the debt is going to matter. Maybe it doesn't matter today. Maybe it doesn't matter next week. But at some point, the debt will matter. Now, you see, my generation, we were always taught there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? A free lunch. The generation today, they think that the free lunch should come every day. More stimulus checks. We don't want to pay taxes. We don't want to work for money. We just want more stimulus checks. We want universal basic income. I'm telling you, it doesn't work that way. I wish it worked that way. Then I've been wrong all my life. I was taught There's no such thing as the free lunch. I was taught that debt has to be repaid. I was taught to be responsible. Do you know how irresponsible our leaders are by rigging the markets with the printing of debt? I mean, just in the last 3.5 years, 3.5 years ago, we're sitting at 21 trillion. 21 trillion in debt. Now we're at 35 trillion. That's 14 trillion in 3.5 years. But Mike, we had a pandemic. We had to make everybody get rich during the pandemic. And that's exactly what we did. But I'm telling you, that was irresponsible. You cannot rig the stock market. You cannot rig the housing market. You cannot print your way to prosperity. Yes, it might work on a temporary basis. And that's where everybody gets all excited and say, let's keep doing it. Let's keep printing money. Let's keep handing out stimulus checks. Let's get that universal basic income program. Let's give everybody 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 a month. Let's just send them out checks. Let's make everybody a millionaire. Let's give everybody a check for $1 million. Why not? It doesn't do any harm, right? Look at the entire system is starting to melt down. There's a problem out there. There's a problem in the housing market. The price to income ratio on houses has never been worse. The buyers are gone. There's no demand. There's demand, but they can't afford it at this price. Look at the boomers are getting ready to retire. They want to sell at this price. They want to sell where Billy Bob got out at. But the millennials are coming and going, well, I'm not going to give you $2 million for that 1,500 square foot tract home. I'm just not going to do it. I'll sit back and wait. I'll go live in my minivan until things blow over. It's probably not a bad program right now. If you just are patient, you just wait this out, you're going to get a lot more opportunities. Opportunities are going to show up. Look at what's melting down right now. Okay, the commercial end of things. Everybody knows the commercial side's melting down. Hotels, shopping centers, apartments, office buildings, they're all half off. They're all coming down. Why? Because the rates went up. Now, if I was a young guy, this is probably what I would do. Right now, Fannie Mae, they have a program. They have a program out there. You can buy up to a 6-unit apartment building, all right? 2, 4, or 6 units. And you only need to put 5% down. That's a program. If I were younger, I'd look into it. You have to live in one of the units for 12 months. Okay, so I'd probably do this once a year. I'd go find a place that's 30, 40, 50% off of what it was just 3 years ago. And I'd put the offer in. I'd put my 5% down, live in one of the units. Year later, move out, rent that unit, have cash flow on the building, go do it again. Rinse, wash, and repeat. But Fannie Mae's got a program that you can put 5% down on the multi-unit, 2, 4, or 6 units, I believe it is. But do your own research on that. But if I was a young guy, that's an opportunity. There's opportunities out there. There's going to become a lot more opportunities as you see the residential market coming to a standstill right now. And soon that's going to be toppling over. Just like the banks. Hundreds of banks are going to fall over. Now, granted, they're going to cover it up the best they can. They're going to say that they're merging. They're going to all be merging with J.P. Morgan. And J.P. Morgan is going to be the last one standing until we switch to the central bank digital currency. And then J.P. Morgan, rides off into the sunset. Jamie Dimon becomes a billionaire and everybody's happy, right? And then all the banking is done by the central bank. You see, that way we won't have any bank crash. We won't have your money. You'll always be able to get your money back, but your money's not going to be worth anything. You see, we're going to just inflate the purchasing power of your money away. That's how the government steals your money. It's the invisible tax, if you will. Now, this is a problem. You see, eventually, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Yeah, you're making money if you're a moon boy. Yeah, Bitcoin's over 60,000. Ain't that great? It could go to 1 million, but the dollars, when you convert it back, not going to be worth anything. Yeah, okay, maybe the stock market, maybe the Dow goes to 100,000. Maybe the Dow goes to 1 million. Look, we got a lot of countries around the world right now. We got Japan. We got the UK. We got Germany. All their stock markets at record highs. but they're all in a recession, all probably heading to a world depression, if you want my honest opinion. The United States is going to join them. We just like to paper things over a little better than the rest of the world. We like to print that money. We like to abuse the privilege we have as the reserve currency. Because that's what we do. We abuse it. We weaponize the currency. If we don't like you, we freeze your assets. We steal them from you is what we do. We're the United States. We got a military. We'll blow you up. We'll steal all your assets. We'll take all your oil. That's what we do. This is irresponsible, but this is what your leaders are doing. We got to get some smarter people in office. I know it's an election year and we got an election coming up. Can you believe we only have two old people? I think they're both over 80 or close to it. I mean, I don't want anyone older than me to ever be president again. Where are you young people? Rally up, revolt. It's time. Anyways, I got carried away today. I'm Tall Mike. If you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up. Why not? Get out there, everybody. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.